In this lesson, we're going to talk about using Microsoft to do a mail merge with our database. You'll remember last time we were in the lab that we set up an Excel contact list of your friends with a bunch of interesting little details. The reason we're doing this is to understand how databases are designed, because once you understand that, you understand how you can configure your property management software and possibly an add-on module for CRM, so that you're collecting information that you're later going to use for marketing as well as for business intelligence. So we cover all of these things in a row, and you'll see how they all come back to that initial database. If you don't see it in action, it can be a little bit harder to imagine how you'd ever use that information that you're using at check-in. So I want to go through this process using a Microsoft mail merge. So if we go in, you set up your contact list last time. If you haven't done that, pause this video and go back, open Excel, and I want you to set up these column headers: first name, last name, street address, town, province, postal code, where you met the person the first time, when you met them, what was the month and the year that you met them. If it's a little more specific, like last week, then you probably don't want to say the year. When did you last see them? Again, if it was yesterday, you're still going to put the date, so you would put March 11th or March 12th. What their birthday is, their phone number, and their email. Now, I've done that. I'm just going to Alt-Tab over to my contact list, so you can see that I've done that over here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see it. So I've set up my husband and my daughter in here. I put first name, last name, email, street, city, province, and so on. Now, the thing that we talked about is these column headers at the top. All of these names in the first row are called field names when we're referring to a database. So each of these individual cells is a field in this database record. So we want to make sure that you're remembering all that terminology, that each of these lines is a record. These first row column headers are field names. Each cell is a field within a record. Now, the other thing that I mentioned is we want to have primary keys. So I'm going to right-click on the A at the top of this column and insert a new column. What that will let me do is add an ID for each of these people. So whenever I'm using a person's information in a different table, I can make sure that I've actually got an ID that is used for them, so I don't have to reproduce. I don't want to have to type Christy Ferguson again. I could just type 1 and 2, and then I'm going to put these as contact ID will be the field name for their ID number. Which some people feel it's a little impersonal. It isn't impersonal, it just prevents that garbage in, garbage out issue where if you retype things a few times, you might spell Christy K-R-I-S-T-Y one time and C-H-R-I-S-T-I-E another time, and those aren't the same person. But a number 2 is a number 2. So it isn't about being impersonal, it's about being concise and organized. So I've saved this file. I'm just going to resave it now that I've added that ID. So make sure you put that ID in here. We'll actually use this again when we're doing that final project. So this is a valuable thing to do and a valuable thing to understand. So we'll come back over to our PowerPoint here, and we've got our contact list now saved. We're going to do something called mail merge. Now, mail merge is where we write a letter once. It's a form letter, but we allow some fields to be used in our mail merge document, in our form letter, so that when we do send it, although we've only typed it once, we could send that to 5 people, 5,000 people, 5 million people, still only type it once, and it will dynamically replace the field names with the data from our database. So instead of having to spend 6 weeks typing 5,000 letters, you spend 6 minutes typing one letter. Hit send, it mail merges, so it takes the database, takes your letter, puts them together, and makes 5,000 letters that are personalized with the individual detail. So when we're in Microsoft Word, we can actually create a very simple form letter. So I want you to open Word now on your computer, and we're going to create a new file from existing, and we're going to do it from a template. Now, in order to do this, I want you to create a template. So that's our next step. We're going to cover a lot in this lesson. So I'm just going to Alt-Tab over to my Word document. And here I've opened document 1, so it's just a blank Word document. In order to make my template, I'm going to make a letterhead. And I want you to do this as well. And I want you to send this to me once you've created it. So I'm going to go into my Insert tab, and I'm going to put in a header. And in the header, I want to put a little piece of clip art, and in the footer, I'm going to put my company information, and I'm going to save this as a template so that anytime I write a letter, I'll create a new letter from this template so they'll always have my brand. Now, it's going to be ugly because we're just doing this to understand the functionality. So don't worry about knowing whether something is attractive or not. I'm going to delete the blank spot in my header now that it's there, and I'm going to go to my Insert tab again, and I'm going to go to my clip art or online pictures, depending on what version you're using of Microsoft Word. You'll find that in many situations you're going to be using the most up-to-date version of Microsoft Word, so it's valuable to know it's Insert Clip Art in 2010, and in Microsoft Office 365 it's Insert Online Pictures, which lets you get into your Office clip art. And I'm just going to find a simple piece of clip art. I could go online and find other pieces of clip art as well. I'm going to find one that looks kind of logo-like. There we go. So you see it's a drawing as opposed to a photo because most logos are not photos. So I'm going to pretend this is my logo. So in it goes. It is huge. Now remember we talked about putting pictures in Word documents in a previous lesson, and that if we want to resize, we take our mouse to the corner anchor till it turns into a double-headed arrow, and then we click and hold, and we can drag to resize without warping this picture. Because we want to make sure that we keep our, it's called our aspect ratio, so keep our dimensions in the same ratio. So there's my logo. That's the top of my header. I'm just going to double click on the background of my Word document to come back into the Word document, and I'm going to insert a footer. So I'll go back to my Insert tab, insert a blank footer, and it brings me down to here, and I'm going to just type company name, tab, company address, tab, company phone. And then I'm going to double click again on the background of my Word document, and then I can see I've still got my header, I've got my footer, and I'm going to pretend that this is my gorgeous branded document template that I want to use for my letterhead. As many times you'll be creating a letter on your computer that you don't print off and mail anymore. You save it and you send it out. I actually have scanned a picture of my signature as well, so it can look like I've signed the document in blue ink. So what I'm going to do now, though, with this, instead of opening old letters, which some people get in the habit, they'll open a previous letter, save it as something new, and then make some changes, and things can happen where you save over top of important documents when that happens. We want to actually create this as a template, so every time we create a document, we create it from this template. So I'm going to go in File, Save As, and I'm going to save it as a Word template as opposed to a Word document. So let's wait for this to load. I'll save it to my computer. I need to save it in my Infotech folder. This will pop up a dialog box, and from the drop down you'll see we have the option to save it as a Word template. I'm going to do that. Now, because I'm on my own computer, it asks me if I'd like to save it under my custom Office templates. On the Georgian College computers, you won't get this option. I'm going to instead do it the way you'll see happening at Georgian. So I'm going to come back again to my documents and go into, I've actually got a folder called IT files, which is where I've saved my contact list as well. And I'm going to call this letterhead. And you'll see that instead of being a .doc, it's a .docx. That means it is a template. So now, what I actually would want to do is make a new, I would close this. Now, of course, I've only got one document open, so if I close this one, then I close all of Word. But anytime I start up in Word and I wanted to create a document on my letterhead, I would come in and click File, New. So once you've done this piece, you're going to click on File, New, and then click From Existing instead of from a template or from a blank document. And you're going to browse and find where you saved your letterhead. So I want you to save that untitled document as form letter, and you'll notice it says a docx, not as a doc, or not as a .x. So now we have our form letter document. We're going to create a form letter that we want to write, and we're going to insert some dynamic fields from here. So if we come back over to our PowerPoint, it actually is going to step you through from the Mailings tab in the Start Mail Merge command group. You'll see that there's a drop down. We're just going to go right into the step-by-step mail merge wizard and work our way through that. So click on the step-by-step mail merge wizard, choose your document type, which will be a letter, and then it gives you an option of choosing your recipients. You're going to use the existing list. Select your Outlook contacts and use the list you created. Then you're going to put the fields in where you want them to appear, and you can do it using the wizard, or you can just finish the wizard and insert them on your own. So I'm going to go through this with you, and then we're going to preview it and see that it works. So I'm going to come back over to my form letter, come to my Mailings tab, and I'm going to click the drop down under Start Mail Merge and go into the step-by-step wizard. You'll see on the right hand side a panel opens up. My document type is letters, and then I'll click on Next, and it says select your starting document. Use the current document, start from a template, or start from an existing document. So I'm going to use the one we have open here, use the current document. Click Next, and it says select recipients. Well, you want to use that list that we created before, so keep that radio button checked, and then click on Browse. Now you'll need to be able to browse through like we went through going through your computer. So if you go into your documents or in your G drive, you'll then go into the folder that has your Excel document, and it's going to look for anything of any kind of database, any data source in here. So it recognizes that contacts is a potential data source. It asks what table is it in. Well, I've only got one sheet in that database table. So it's sheet 1, and it says first row of data contains column headers. And yes, we want to make sure that's checked so that it knows what those headers are named. So we click OK there and wait for this to reload. And it shows you a preview of what might be happening. So here we have our contact list. It thinks that last name is last name, first name is first name, and so on. This is very good. We want to scroll across and make sure that it understands everything in the options. So that is good. So now you can see it says currently your recipients are selected from sheet 1 in contacts. So that's great. Next we want to write our letter. Now, as I mentioned, you can automatically insert fields into your letter. So I want to put an address block in here. And here it's showing me what it thinks my address is. So there's a few issues, John Cunningham, Midland, and a postal code. So where did my street address and my province go? Good question. So let's click Match Fields, and we'll see we didn't use company, but I did use an address. So I want to take address 1, change it to street, and state, change it to prov. My postal code is fine. So everything else should be okay here. And then I'll click OK. Now, if I look at this, it shows here's what your address will look like. What does the next address look like? There it is. That's great. So I'll click OK. And then as soon as it inserts it, it just says address block. At this point, a lot of people might think that they have broken their document. It's because it is a dynamic document. Remember, this is going to dynamically insert fields, the field contents when we're done. So it's supposed to look like this, so do not worry. Now the next thing I want to do is insert a salutation. So I'm going to put dear, space, and then I want to put first name in here. You'll notice on my mail merge side it doesn't have first name. Up in the Mailings tab, however, I can click on this drop down and choose from my database what I want to have in here. Now I'm going to type a form letter, and I want to use all of the fields possible. So I'm going to say, remember when we met, and I'm going to put in the field when met at, and I'm going to put in where met. It was the start of a great adventure, a great relationship. Have some fun with this. We're not actually going to send these unless you really, really want to. I haven't seen you since, and again, we want to make sure this is dynamic. If we saw one of our friends on January 12th, but not all of them, then we want to make sure it's a dynamic field. So we put in the last saw. We should get together for your birthday. On. And again, we want it to dynamically put in their birthday. Give me a call. Yours truly. This is where your name goes. We don't want it to dynamically put in somebody else's name as though they had sent this letter. And there's our form letter. If we had a list of 5,000 people, you have a list of 5 or 6 people right now, this letter can go out to all of those people, and it would be completely customized with the details that you put in. How do we know this? Well, let's have a look by hitting preview results. There's one. Christy Ferguson. Dear Christy, remember when we met at Midland Hospital? Haven't seen you since 3/12/2014. We should get together for your birthday on October 12th. So it's filling in whatever it sees in those fields. Now, without typing anything else, I can scroll back and forth in between these, and you'll see completely different results. So play with that right now. Click preview results and scroll through all 5, and you'll see that all of the letters will be customized to match the database from Excel. So very cool. Normally what you'd then do if you were sending these letters is click Finish and Merge. Now you can print the documents and then also print envelopes the same way, or you can even email these messages. If you have Outlook on your computer, you can actually connect and send these via email, which I have done before. I've also faxed before, faxed off 5,000 documents just with an extra plugin. You can also finish and merge, and it will let you edit individual documents. What will then happen if you hit edit individual documents or print documents when you hit this is it'll actually create the number of pages as you have in your contact list. So if you have 5,000, you'll have a 5,000 page document where you can edit individual ones. Typically, you're not going to want to do that in that many. You might do 3 or 4, but not 5,000, because that would be insane. Now, if this was for your final project, you wouldn't actually hit any of the options under Finish and Merge. You would just preview results, then turn off your preview, so you come back to these dynamic fields, hit Save, and this is the document you would send me. So you'll see it's only 1 page long. It still has the dynamic fields in it. It's connected to that contact list. You would zip this and your contact list to send to me. So that's as simple as it gets, and as tricky as it gets for mailmerge. But you'll see, if I hadn't collected the information about where we met or when we met, or if I missed that information on somebody because I didn't require that information at check-in, then I can't send this automatically. I'll be insulting somebody because it'll say, remember when we met, when met, at where met. It won't change those dynamic fields. So when you're planning your property management database, you need to think about how are you going to communicate with people in the future. If I do a query, which is that question to the database where I request a filtered list, so if I query all married women, I want to make sure that I've entered their husband's name. So I can say, dear, insert their name, I would love to see you and your husband, whatever their name is, at our couples weekend. If you have thought in advance to collect that information, think how personal that letter is compared to dear customer. If you are married, you might want to bring your spouse, because you don't know if it's a woman or a man, to our couples weekend. Very impersonal compared to thinking through configuring your property management database to collect that information, and your check-in process to force your check-in front office staff to require them to collect that information or they can't move on. So that way you can send this to your marketing department And they can create some really compelling, filtered campaigns and very personalized messages. So that's our mail merge piece. Understanding how this works on Word is the same as if you've got a CRM document. So if you had CRM software online, for instance, that uses Constant Contact, or if you've got a PMS CRM software that you use, you take that database, you take your message and you combine them together, and that's your personalized messages. Our next piece that we want to look at is actually the CRM side of it. So I want to just get a little bit further into the CRM. So if we go beyond mail merge with CRM, customer relationship marketing or customer relationship management technology is any application or initiative designed to help an organization optimize their interactions with their customers, suppliers, or prospects. So this includes vendors too. You want to build relationships with your vendors as well as your customers and your partners. That has any touch points. Anytime you're communicating, that's a touch point. At check-in, when they come to front desk, that's a touch point. But when they went to your website, also a touch point. When they made a booking, also a touch point. The email they received, another touch point. Follow-ups, all of those are opportunities to personalize your CRM. So customer relationship marketing, it involves customer acquisition and customer maintenance. So it's not just about getting new customers. And we've talked about this last time. We talked about CRM. So I just want to take this in relationship to that mail merge piece we just did. So customer acquisition is one piece of it, but the maintenance and making sure people feel like you're building a relationship with them is the other side. So when we are looking at conversion, 2.5% is a good conversion rate. If somebody comes to your website and 2.5 out of 100 people book a room with you, that's a pretty good percentage. A compelling offer can turn your visitor into a lead, and a compelling follow-up, a great follow-up offer can turn a lead into a customer. So what is compelling? We want to know this. Something that is compelling is timely, personalized, and relevant, and this comes back to that database. Timely, well, we don't want to invite someone to Valentine's Day in December because they're thinking about Christmas or Hanukkah or another winter holiday. If we invite them in the end of January, it's much more timely. They're more likely to say, I have to take action now because Valentine's Day is around the corner. Personalized means we use their name and we use some of the details we've collected about them. And relevant to you, if you're a nun or a monk, a Valentine's offer may not be as relevant to you. So we want that information so we can query our database and only send personalized offers in a timely fashion to those it's relevant to. Having a database means that we can be consistent. If we have a database and a process that is automated and tied together, we can consistently give every lead and every customer the same treatment with no steps left to chance. We have to build a process for this to happen though. So if we know that when somebody has stayed with us once, we want to send them a quarterly follow-up with perhaps a discount, we create a process and everybody who stayed with us at least once gets that follow-up. Automate what you can so that you don't have to try to remember it. Now, when we want to make improvements, we can become more efficient or we can become more effective. Often when we become more efficient, we become less effective. So we want to be careful and balance this out. Efficiency means quicker. Effectiveness means yielding higher results, so more money coming from each action that we take. So we want to make sure that we are pulling this together. Now, the next piece that we want to talk about in this CRM section is our capture form or our booking form. That leads to our database. That's where we get the information that creates a record in our database, and all the fields from the form match the fields in our database. They're not just about booking a room or getting information. They're about getting data into our database. So we want to make sure that we have that list. Now, the other piece that we want to talk about is using the data, because in the CRM section, we're using the data to communicate with people, and it's more customer information at that point. But the actions and reactions of people to the offers we give them are about data mining and being able to analyze who takes action on our offers. So if we've sent an offer out to all women who are married to come to our couples weekend, and we find that women who are married who are professionals, lawyers, accountants, and so on, are 6 times as likely to respond to that, then we're starting to identify our high-value customers and understand what kind of actions will lead to results. So in our business information session that we're doing with Wendy Paul from Maestro Northwind, you're going to see that not only do we design and configure our content, we also, property management software to pull in the right content, we're also going to then look at our historical information and mine it, even historical of what happened today, what happened this weekend, what happened last week, and compare it to last year and previous years and other companies. There's so many wise decisions we can make when we truly know where we're at, and we look at that data again after collecting it. So we'll look at that piece with Wendy in our business information, business intelligence dashboard section. We're going to look at configuration as well in another video. That's it for the CRM piece and how that database works with our CRM database or our PMS database to pull together data we've collected and customize it for queried, filtered marketing messages that are personalized, timely, and relevant. Make sure you do the exercises in this. You'll be using them in the final project.